Fiesta on APEX1RADIO. Our next topic is civilization, the African way, or the African origin of civilization. Well, a documentary has been produced to that effect by Amazingly African. It is a Pan African organization that promotes African values. Its CEO and founder will be joining us live in this edition of African Fiesta to talk about the documentary. Her name is Linda Foinding. She's been on this show a couple of times. This is Fiesta. Don't go away yet. Venue Tina in that beautiful piece of music titled Jade has put the time to 20 minutes past 12 here in the studio of Apex One Radio. Right, so our next guest is ready. Linda Foinding will be talking about a documentary she just produced on African civilization. Very interesting. Let's follow her and discover what she has off her sleeves. She now joins us from Providence in Rhode Island. Linda, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Ernest. Thank you so much for having me on this show again. It's a pleasure, as usual.
It's always a pleasure to have you on the show, Linda. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. It's nice and sunny, but it's still cold.
Great. So first things first, how is Amazingly Africa doing?
Amazingly Africa is great. For those of you who don't know, Amazingly Africa, I am the founder, which is a network for Pan-African inclusion, Pan-African networking, and mostly digital inclusion. Our aim is to empower women and youth in the aspect of STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics.
Oh, fine. How old is this organization, and what do you think you've achieved so far?
The organization is a few years old now. I think we're passing year 4 this year. It's a milestone. We're very happy and excited about that. So far, the milestones that we've been able to achieve is, launch our Princess Warrior Initiative, which is basically the goal is to empower women and youth. We've been able to collaborate with several youth camps based in Cameroon during the summer and provide them with online courses on personal development, professional development. And another milestone we've been able to achieve with that initiative is really match women on the continent with internships and entry-level positions in the US and in Europe from the comfort of their home.
One question about your vision before we get into the documentary. Now, over the years, we've had African organizations that focus on the promotion and empowering of youth and women. We're in 2022. What impact do you think youths of Africa and women have had on the continent? And do you think that these two groups can change the African narrative someday?
Definitely. I mean, we focus on women because there are women and men in the world. And as you know, the women have been sort of marginalized on the continent and they've been told to take a step back around the world. But if we want to advance as a civilization, I think that it's important that we have 100% of ourselves. So if you only push 50%, you only get 50% of the result. While if you put the 100%, which is women and men, you get 100% results. So our focus has been on women and youth because youth are the future. The future is now, and Africa has, the largest population of youth under 25 years old on that continent. So it's to say that it's an advantage for us, but how can we take advantage to make sure that it's in the service of the well-being of these youth and these women.
Beautiful. The future is now. Youths and women can effectively change the African narrative. Why not? Her name is Linda Foinding. She is the founder of Amazingly Africa, which has just launched a new documentary titled The African Origin of Civilization, Myth or Reality. Now, did you say it's a short documentary and also a panel discussion?
Yes, so yesterday was the prime time viewing of our short documentary for the first time ever.
Mhm,
And that we had a panel discussion. So the event happened at Sankofa Video and Bookstore. They're located in Washington, D.C., next to Howard University. And it was we had an amazing panel discussion, panelists that were experts in history,
mhm,
Egyptology, Ethiopia, geopolitics, and we were able to really break down the documentary, but also take questions from our live audience and answer any comments or lingering things that they wanted to know. But we mostly urged people to do their research on that. And
mhm,
so the title, African Origin of Civilization, is actually an ode to the author Sheikh Anta Diop, which is a pioneer in this sort of research. He wrote the book, The African Origin of Civilization, Myth or Reality, in the 1950s when it was, unheard of. So he was the one who initiated the movement that we now take on, and we read his books. We tried to get some of his values and some of his fire into that documentary.
mhm. Why did you decide to work on African civilization this time? Is there anything particular about African civilization which you think the rest of the world should know? I mentioned earlier on that it said that civilization began in Africa. So tell us, why civilization?
I think civilization, modern civilization, because we always say that humanity started in Africa, which is true, right? But it's not just humanity that started in Africa. The first people to stand up straight, the first people to wear shoes, the first people to do agriculture, the first people to write, the first people to chart the stars and go on
Mhm,
navigation trips around the world. That all started in Africa before going out everywhere else. So we assume that yes, humanity is born in Africa. Humanity is born, but civilization as we know it, science,
mhm,
technology, mathematics, that is all African.
mhm. Wow.
And that is the message that we're trying to show with that. And
Mhm,
the short documentary was filmed. The film happened at the MFA in Boston, the Museum of Fine
okay.
Arts, because they house
Mhm,
over 25,000 pieces of Nubian and Egyptian artifacts in their vaults.
mhm,
So they have a very large amount of resources that we can all take
mhm,
advantage of. And I think it's sort of a way for me to tell you that you don't have to travel to remote places. If you
mhm.
have a museum in your city, you can go there and see the what your ancestors did and see where you come from and see what you can do for your future and for yourself.
Hmm. Beautiful. Her name is Linda Foinding. She is founder of Amazingly Africa, an organization that works in the direction of the promotion of African values. For how long did you nurse this project before implementing it?
About 5 or 6 months. I filmed a documentary last year,
Mhm,
and so we filmed it, but then we had to edit it, and we had to go back and forth.
mhm.
When you put something like that out there, you want to first make sure that it's factual,
Okay.
and also you want to make sure that the information you pick and choose the information. I did not want to overwhelm my audience, and so
Okay.
I started with the origins of civilization because it's good to start at the beginning,
Right.
right? And then now people can take that and take their research further. And if they want to know more about the bone of Ishango, right? The first
Mhm,
um, evidence of human calculation happened in
mhm,
Africa, Southern Africa. So if they want to learn more about that, they can Google that, right? If they want to know more about the ancient empires and dynasties that we had, right? I only mentioned a few because there are so many, and you don't want to overwhelm people when they're just learning something so new, right? So
right.
you take a little bit and you do your research, and then you come back for more.
Mhm. So, tell us about the research you did. You just mentioned that you took your time. You didn't want to put out information that is not factual out there. So, how did you do your research? Did you read books? Did you watch other documentaries, or what did you do?
It was a little bit of everything. I
Okay.
really dived into everything: books, research papers,
Mhm.
primary sources, documentaries, articles, and also going on site and seeing those artifacts, seeing
Mhm.
those writings, and speaking and collaborating with experts. Like I mentioned, I really
Mhm.
try to talk to historians, right? People whose job is to know about this every day.
Right.
And I'm a newbie in this. I'm just starting to learn. I mean, it's been a few years, but I still know that there's so much more that I don't know, and
Mhm.
because of that, I'm excited to know. I'm excited to learn every day. To wake
Mhm.
up that you can always do more. You can always learn more about things.
Mhm. What are some of the things about civilization that you discovered from your research? Some of the things you've never come across, but by just doing research, you finally discovered about African civilization.
Definitely. I think one of the first things was writing, right? The first human examples and forms of writing
Mhm.
happened in Africa, was developed before it moved into other places. The first piece of paper that we now, the reason why we call paper is
Mhm.
because of the word papyrus, right?
Okay.
And we used to call it paper or something like, I can't really say it, but
Mhm.
it the plant papyrus, right? And they were able to use that um, to write. At the time, they were called scrolls. Um, Another thing that I learned, just so I don't linger too much on that side, is that the contributions of the Nile Valley civilization can be seen
Mhm.
this day, right? I learned that the Greeks and the Roman empires, which we learned so much about in school and whom we always use as an example, um,
Mhm.
that they actually studied in Egypt. They studied at the feet of the Africans, right?
Mhm.
And there for years before bringing that information back
Mhm.
to. And the only problem with that is that they seldom gave credit to those Africans, to these schools, these libraries, and these temples where they actually learned this information. For example, the Pythagorean theorem was used to build the pyramids 2,000 years before Pythagoras actually discovered
Right.
that. What does that mean about history? We need to learn about these timelines. We need to learn chronology, things that start at the beginning and things that come later. And that helps you analyze and see the world that you live in and understand that, you know, as an African, all this narrative of anti-black racism that we see today, it was actually instrumentalized and it was planned out. And it's something that you can see to know that you don't need to hate yourself. You don't need to hate the color of your skin. You can love yourself for who you are because you know the truth about yourself.
As an African who is affectionately attached to the continent, what do some of these discoveries mean to you?
I think to me, it's about self discovery and it's
Mhm.
about self esteem, but that's what it was at the beginning. But
Mhm.
now it's more than that. It became, what do you do with that self-esteem? What do you do with that self-knowledge now? Now that you know more about yourself, now that you know more about where you come from
Mhm.
and what your ancestors did before you, it gives you a sort of pride to know that Africans were not these stupid animals running around naked in the jungle as you would see in movies such as Tarzan, and it makes you realize that we did things, that we accomplished things that are still used today.
Mhm.
Um, it makes me want to do things as well. It makes me want to develop my own skills. It makes me want to see how far I can take my capacities. So I think that it's very much self-esteem, but now it's sort of what do you do with that? And that was sort of how this documentary came about. It was sort of a just. this was my way of, sharing what I learned, the little
Right.
things.
So, who should watch this documentary? What is your target audience?
My target audience, I always say, my younger brothers and sisters,
Mhm.
um, that are 22 and 25 and 23. But I would say that even beyond that, lower and higher, right? Like there are just so many people that wake up one day and they say, oh my, I didn't know about all of this, right?
Right.
It's sort of an epiphany, but at the same time, it doesn't need to be.
Mhm.
I think that you can start at a very young age. Parents need to see this documentary so that they can teach their kids, right? They need to read more about African history so that they can teach their kids. So I would say that it's really the diaspora that needs to see this, but also people on the continent, because there's been so many stereotypes. There has been so many stereotypes thrown at us, thrown against us, that sometimes you're led to believe those things when
Mhm.
deep down you know they're not true, but because it's so proliferated, you tend to internalize these lies about yourself. So you want to change the narrative. You want that single story of Africa and African descendants to be changed, right? We want our perspective and we
Mhm.
want our truth to come out as well. So I need everybody to watch this documentary.
What is the length of the documentary, Linda?
It's 20 minutes. It's very short. Um,
Mhm.
I didn't want to overwhelm people with too much information, like I mentioned, and it's also for you to see that you can read a book and you can do something with that, right?
Mhm.
You can watch a few other documentaries and you can do something with that, and it gives people time to do their research. It gives
Right.
people time to, go to the gym or drive to work, and they have 20 minutes to listen or watch the documentary.
Beautiful. So, who are the partners with whom you work in this project?
So for the actual execution of the documentary, I worked with AfriBlocks. They are based in Zimbabwe, but they have freelancers with whom you can work. And so I really wanted to be a Made in Africa documentary by
Mhm.
Africans. So we did have somebody who was able to edit our video all the way on the continent through AfriBlocks, and they are a Pan African freelancing network. So if you need virtual assistants and all of that,
Mhm.
worked with them in the past before.
Beautiful. By the way, is this the first documentary Amazingly Africa is producing?
It is. It is. The
Okay.
first of many, we hope.
Okay.
This is our first documentary yet.
Beautiful. And so, what did it entail to complete this job in terms of cost?
Mm. I mean, you have to pay the person. First of all, you have to pay tickets to get into the museums, right? And
Mhm.
funny because when I went to the museum, most of the people were there to see the African exhibitions.
Mhm.
Art of the other exhibitions were beautiful and they were wonderful, but most people were in the African exhibitions.
Right.
And I need more Africans to go and look at those African exhibitions. I think that we're the only ones who don't see and don't understand our worth. And it's time that we do see that and we do understand that others are looking to us to make their narrative. So, yeah, the costs. There were a few costs incurred from making the video, filming the video, um, um, paying for the conference, and also for some attendees. So it added up, but it's a labor of love. Although this all came out of my pocket, there wasn't
Mhm.
any sponsorship for this. Hopefully, in the future, I will get more sponsorship so that I can make this documentary at a higher level, really
Right.
hire experts, and have better tools as well, microphones, cameras, to do this work.
Beautiful. I want to know how you intend to use this product. Do you intend to use it as didactic material for schools, maybe, or some kind of workshop material for or conference material and so on? How do you intend to use it?
So we've already started using the material in certain schools. One of
Mhm.
the actually has shown our documentary to his students during Black History Month, and they've already, had a whole class session about it. So that was amazing. I
Mhm,
definitely want to leave the material online for free for a few or few more months,
mhm.
just so that this information is out there and people know that they have access to it. But I do want to be able to provide workshops and, if be speaking about the documentary
Mhm.
and really help students and parents to do their research to help them dive deeper into some of the concepts that we've highlighted in the documentary. So yes, that is the goal.
Beautiful. If I understood you well, this is just like a pilot project or a pilot phase of it. So, do you intend to expand, and develop this documentary further?
Definitely. I definitely tend to expand it. I wouldn't say it's a pilot because we have published other sort of short narratives.
Okay.
And this was a sort of a beta, a 2.0 version of that, not even beta. So we do tend to expand, especially on some of the context that we've brushed upon. Like
Mhm.
I mentioned, this was very introductory, and this was very much about the origins, the historical facts, and also shedding light on some truths. Um, so we do want to expand. We want to be able to talk a little bit more about the different writing systems, the different empires and dynasties, how they rose, how they fell, why they fell,
Mhm.
analysis on that, and also how um, some of the modern youth, how modern Africans are using their history to implement and to improve their futures and other prerogatives.
Great job. Wonderful contribution to knowledge. Thank you so much, Linda, for joining us on the program today. Congrats on this masterpiece, and
Thank
we'll definitely come back on radio and talk about it further. So, just before you go away, could you just drop your contacts again?
Yes, so the documentary is currently available on YouTube for free. So
Okay.
just go to Amazingly Africa. That's our YouTube page. You can subscribe, like, put a comment, and you can also find the live of our discussion that happened yesterday on our Facebook page, which
Mhm.
is also Amazingly Africa. You can find our website, www.amazinglyafrica.com, and also, I believe, Sankofa DC. If you go on their Facebook page, you'll also be able to see our panel discussion and see a little bit more of the things that happened last night in our primetime viewing.
The message has definitely gone across. Thank you so much, Linda, for being part of today's edition of the show. And like I said, congrats on the great job. So we'll talk
Thank
with
you
you
very much.
again subsequently. Thank you so much, and do have a fantastic rest of the weekend.
You as well. Bye bye.
Bye. And that is how we are putting the full stop to this edition of African Fiesta and Apex One Radio. We had our guests all answer present on the show. Thank you so much, Komi Musa, founder of Sister Speaks 237. You are accompanied by the lead of the project. I'm talking about the digital media or digital literacy contest. One just Cynthia who doubles as a journalist and correspondent of Apex One Radio. Thank you so much, Soul Angel, marriage counselor. You spoke from Chicago, and the topic was your show, The Blissful Couples Corner. Then we just rounded off with Linda Foinding, founder of Amazingly Africa. Maxwell Ajit was at the Valsuch Germany end of Apex One Radio, controlling us digitally from that end. We had support from the entire Apex One radio team. I will be back again for yet another edition of the show, probably next week. And until we meet again, it is bye bye, ciao, au revoir, merci, see you. To God be the glory.